So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next Oasis monthly webinar, our September webinar, and this month we dedicate it to the subject of plant hire in Pegasus CIS 5. Just a little agenda put together for this morning. We had our welcomes and our introductions now. My name, as you all know, is Bruce Kidd. I'm from Oasis. I do the sales and marketing here. As part of what I deliver our products to our customers. And today we have set up a webinar regarding Pegasus CIS 5 plant hire, an area that a lot of you should potentially be using, that might not be using it. And at this point, I want to introduce Louise Dickenson. I think you all might have met before on a webinar. Louise is from iTech, and Louise has been working in the CIS Pegasus arena for absolutely ever. So totally trust the demonstration and the product she's giving us. We know she knows exactly what she's talking about. So that's always great. It's always great to know great to know that the knowledge we pass over is very relevant to what you guys are going to be doing. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Louise. Sorry, Louise will be sharing a screen, and again we can just confirm if you can see that or not when she's done so, and then Louise will get on and talk to us about plant hire. Thank you, Louise.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes, I can. So okay, I'm hoping everybody else can.
Okay. So plant hire on CIS comes in two very different formats, and it always is a little bit of a confusion for people, because on the actual modules, we have one called plant. And on most first use of CIS and questioning about what plant is, well, is that external plant hire? No, it's not. The plant module on CIS is for your own owned plant. And I'm going to leave that one until later on in the seminar, but essentially what it means is that your own fixed assets, drills, kangos, excavators, vans, anything that goes to site, you can actually manage through the plant module and recharge to jobs at a rate that's set by you. In addition to that, the plant module will also allow you to raise invoices to customers for external plant that they are hiring. So that's the plant module. There's a very different form of plant hire, and that's your external plant hire, where you're actually hiring in plant from a hire company. It's one of the biggest problems for finance when they're trying to enter purchase invoices against a purchase order, because normally people raise a purchase order for plant hire. And they say it's for a job, J for a job, the type of purchase order. And the problem with that is they are estimating the amount of time that that item is going to be on site. And we all know in the real world that that just doesn't happen. So, for example, I'm hiring a tower scaffold, goes out onto site. Yes, I'm ordering it. I reckon it's going to be a week. Site manager says a week, and it turns into 2 weeks. The problem with that is when finance match that invoice, the first week's invoice, against that order, it satisfies the order and basically closes the line. So the only option at that point in time is either to add a new line to the original purchase order, which you don't really want to do, or change the length of time, the quantity, the days, the weeks. So what you actually have on CIS, I'll just go to the purchases. We actually have an external plant hire section under purchases. So how does that work? Well, I'm going to go down to a little bit of setup first to make this nice and smooth for everybody. Devil's in the detail, as always with CIS. So what we actually are looking to do is set up these plant hire items on the stock module. Now, some of you may have heard me say before, I don't like the module being called stock because everybody thinks warehouse, materials, and that's all it's for. Well, actually, the stock module is used by somebody like me extensively for purchase ordering of anything. So the fact that I am setting up plant hire items on the stock module means they'll never come into stock. It's just a method for placing purchase orders for external plant hire. So let's just have a look at a stock item. Okay, so let's just go into stock here. And here are my stock hire items. So I've got breakers, compactors, kangos, and whackers. Of course, all of this can be imported. So if I just look at that breaker, notice I've set up a breaker for both a day and a week hire. They are two different voltages. I didn't mean to do that. So let's just have a look at the compactor instead. So I've set up two different items, one for day and one for week hire. And the reason for that is if I just go into day, I've got my preferred supplier and I've got my cost price for the day. So the buyer, when they're choosing a compactor, it's for the day. This one for the day, it's going to automatically bring in that rate for HireMate, which is who this is. Of course, because this is stock, I can also have supplier stock here. So one for GRO as well, same rate, but never mind. Just a minute, bear with me a second. Sorry, I can't quite see. Had you all in across the screen. So yes, we've got the full functionality of the stock with supplier pricing as well. So for the hire item, I have set up a material group called plant hire, which posts through to plant hire in the nominal, and that is preset to default to type P for plant when placing an order. So it's all devil's in, as I say, devil's in the detail, everything preset on the stock. So how does this actually work? Simply, we go into purchase orders. Can't see where mine are. There we go, purchase orders. And let's set up a new one. So we'll do it as today, unapproved, and it's hire, ordered by me, and I'm going to put it onto my job. Come over to here. And there's my Oasis build job, and my phase number is prelims. Job site address has automatically come in, which is nice, and that's all I need to do. So I'm just going to save that and then enter items. Those of you who use purchase ordering, very familiar with this. But here on my item type and the overall setup for purchase ordering on CIS is for type J for job. But what we've got here is external plant hire P. When you choose, when you put on an order and the order line is type P, that's what CIS is looking for in the external plant hire section of the purchase module. If you don't do P, it won't see it at all. So we require it today. And here's my stock code. So I'm just going to go for, see what comes up with a whacker. By the way, I don't know if all of you know, some people don't, it's not in any help or manual anywhere, but the percentage sign is the universal search and is particularly helpful when you're ordering on purchase ordering. It will search anywhere on the line of a stock code. It's always been a bugbear of people because CIS, particularly version 4, wasn't good at searching, always searched left to right. So this is your universal search. But there's my whackers. So I'm going to go for a day hire. Notice it's brought in my whacker rate. So I just go 1 and save that. So I'm going to duplicate that and just change this to a compactor. Oh, got a theory, nobody can type when people are watching. So I'll have the day high on that one as well. And duplicate it again. And I'll have a breaker. I've got both of them as a week. Okay, I think it's that one. Yeah, just the description was wrong. Actually, I'll have that one for a week. Okay, so I'm happy with that. No action. Close that down and approve. Fine. Apologies for the speed of my system. It's on a Hyper-V, so it might be a little bit slow. So there is my purchase order. What you can do as a triple check for your buyer is you can actually bring in that item type into the purchase order layout. You can bring anything into the purchase order layout so that we can actually see that everything is a type P. Okay, so that is now an approved order. So what do we do next? What you do is you will get, hopefully, an on-hire note from HireMate. So you go into external plant hire and you mark your plant as on hire. So there are my 3 items. I could tick each of these individually and it will ask me each of them for a hire note reference. When did the hire start? What's the hire reference? 1 item on hire, the whole thing, which is very laborious. I want all of those 3 things. Now, when you go into Mark Plant on Hire, it will give you a list of every single plant item that has been ordered that is not yet on hire. So notice that I also have the purchase order number here. So what I could do is filter it by that number if I've got a lot of items here. So filter it on the purchase order number and then tag all. Okay, and all it asks me for now is an on hire ref. And there we go. All marked on hire, all gone. So I could, as often happens, transfer to a different job, plant to a new job. How do I see what I've actually put on hire? So I have inquiries here, and I've got plant currently on hire. And there we are. So I can open that up and see what I've got. I've also got overdue for return. Now, as we all know, plant hire out on site can be a bit of a nightmare. I did have one client that hired a very expensive large generator. They worked on overhead lines on the railways, and some bright spark put this generator into one of those huts by the side of the railway. Finance never talked to purchase ordering the buyers, so the two were not joined, and the hire went on for over a year at a cost of £28,000. So I like overdue for return. That's really good. Ordered but not received. So if you've got a site inquiry, where's the plant? And received but not invoiced. So there we are. There's our whacker. Now, when you put plant on hire, external plant on hire, what CIS does, which is so clever, is it creates an open-ended goods received note. And that received note can way extend the estimated end date of the hire. And because it's an open-ended goods received note until you stop the hire, until you mark it as off hire, you can put as many supplier invoices against that hire as you like. So it takes all that pain away of having to amend or manage purchase orders when a hire goes on. So time passes, I mark my plant as off hire. There we are. So again, I'm going to filter by selection. There's the 2 items there. Sorry, that was the wrong purchase order. Let's clear filter. Okay, there's mine. So I'm going to tag all. And now it says, well, when was my hire date ended? Actually, I don't want to do that because I've got a week on that one. Let's just tag that one. Okay, so my hire end date is tomorrow. Time on job was 1 day and return is off hire. See what I mean about doing each one individually? Bit of a pain. And that's that done. So that is now off hire. And what CIS has closed the goods received note, basically. So now I cannot invoice, well, I could, but I couldn't invoice beyond that date if I was picking up this external hire goods received note for these 2 items. This one is still on hire. Okay, the only thing I would say about matching an invoice against that, some of you may, let's just put one on quickly. So let's say that. Say no action. Sometimes you would select goods received notes to invoice and you'd receive the whole thing. With on plant hire, on CIS4, you used to be able to pick up a whole goods received note. CIS5, it's now select goods by item line. So I can now tick those 2 or tag them all. Okay. So that's going to give me my perpetual invoice on this one. So 1, I could say 0.2 of a week. And there we go. So that's external plant hire. It's actually quite simple once you get the setup done on your stock items. Could do it manually, but I just think that as far as speed is concerned, data entry, to set this up on stock as a one-off, you're also tracking supplier pricing. And of course, you can import any changes in supplier pricing as well. So I can reset on hire status, and I can resume an on-hire status, and I can print an off-hire confirmation if I want to. And the reason you do that, there you go, is, and of course you can change this stationery, this layout to show exactly what you want. But the reason for that is you might be sending your own van out, lorry out to pick up the plant with an off-hire note. So that's your external plant hire. Now we move on to your plant. It's very interesting when I talk to people about the plant hire module. I say, oh, we don't have any of our own plant. Well, most companies actually do. And the problem with having your own plant is it doesn't get job costed. So the whole idea of this module is to be able to manage your own assets, whether that's just a tower, whether it's vans going onto site, whether you've got drills, which most people have. One company has gone down to actually buckets, vacuum cleaners, all sorts, because they want to track it because they lost so much plant. So it can be used to the nth degree, excavators, etc., or can it be used in a much smaller way? But either way, it's really good to be able to charge your jobs with your own plant. And most QSs will put in a price for your own use of your own plant as well. So how does the plant module work? Well, I'm going to go over to settings first. And we have a plant hire setup. This is the only place, just pop into settings for a moment. This is the only place where groups can be made mandatory. And I would always recommend that they are made mandatory. Not going to go through this too much at the moment, but it's worth pointing out here that you can make mandatory some of the details, some of the certifications, if you like, and due dates for each plant item. So yes, no prompt, whether it's services, calibrations, etc. And you can make analysis codes mandatory as well, if you want to do that. So what we have is asset groups. So these are just the major asset groups, very much like categories in stock. So just top of the pyramid, basically. Good reporting and grouping. But then we have asset categories, and asset categories are really the drivers for the whole of the plant module. So if I just look at the excavators, now what we are not looking at here is an individual piece of plant. This is the major group or the grouping for your plant. So we have excavators, which is coming from the asset group, and my default cost heading and my default shift pattern. And yes, I want to order one only excavator. Do we allow this on contracts? Yes. And the reason for that is you may well have something that you hire externally, which you'd never send out to a job. Okay, so you set these up first, these asset categories. Again, these can be imported, but hiding away down here is the really important bit, which is the asset category rates. So if we look at those, there we are, day, hour, week. So these are set by you. I have an internal rate, which is recharging one of your jobs, and an external rate, which is external hire to a customer. Okay, so set those up. Again, import them if you need to. All of these asset categories, get them all in here. So I've got a lot for vans in here as well. Come out of here, back to our setup, and then we've got asset status. Now, these are preset by CIS 5. You can have your own. So I could have a stolen. Not good, but there you go. And this one would then be inactive. Now, by ticking that as inactive, it means that any plant that has a status of stolen will not be available to select when I'm putting plant on hire on the job. Let's save that one. And the last one I want to look at is charge types. Charge types are additional costs relating to what you are putting on hire. So I'm just going to do one for fuel. Now what you have here, this is very clever. How often do you want to invoice this? I'm going to do first invoice only, because after that it's up to them to put diesel in it. Actually, I might do first and last if I can. No, all invoices. I might do all invoices. It's up to me. So this is 4,000 again. I'll just put them on the same place, and my revenue heading is the same. So my job heading for plant fixed asset hire is both a cost and a revenue heading. It's just the way I've set it up for the day. And these are litres. So there we go. So you would add these charges at the time of setting up a plant hire contract. So that's our setup. On the utilities, you can set next asset number and next plant contract number. So let's go to the plant module itself. And what we've actually got is the assets themselves, and then you've got one called job assets. I'll come back to that one in a moment, but let's have a look at an asset. So here I've got my 14-ton Thompson excavator. So this is an actual piece of kit that we own. We have bought it and we own it. It is our fixed asset. So how does this actually work? Well, you might think that setting up a new asset, you just do it through here. Unfortunately, that's not the case. One of the things that you must do first is set up a plant job. When you look at this, you think, well, actually, that's the job I'm going to charge the plant to. No, this is a job that is managing all of your assets. So let's have a look at our plant job. Now, this will be a phased job, and I will show you why. So here's our plant job. And what we actually have on our cost phases is all of our plant. So if you're ever going to use the plant module, you'd set this job up first and you'd import all of your plant into cost phases into this job. Cost phases and sales phase. This job is, yes, use cost phases, yes, use sales phases, because you are recharging this plant to other jobs and to external customers. And yes, we want them synchronized. So each plant has its own individual sales phase and cost phase. Okay, so let's just go back to those cost phases, and there we are, all of them there. I actually purchased all this through purchase invoicing. That's what you would do, PO it and purchase invoice it and bring it in to the job. So I actually have the value on the job itself. And a good reason for doing that is I am going to be managing all of the maintenance on these items, on my excavators, etc. I'm going to be managing all the servicing, etc. costs, calibration costs. And I'm also going to be recharging these items, which is basically a sale. So for each of these items, I am going to be able to report on how good it is or how bad it is for us to buy our own kit, because obviously to spend 35 grand or 50 grand on an excavator is a huge capital outlay. So is it worth us doing this? So this is a really invaluable tool for cash flow and planning. So there's my job. Just go back to assets. So here's my excavator. So I'm setting that up. I'm choosing my asset category and giving it the registration number, the asset value. Now what we have here, I've got to receive those, so I'll just do that on the 7th. What we've got here is a PO number. You might think that if you entered that, you'd pull in the value of this item. It's not like that at all. It's just linking it to a PO number for the record, for the purposes of the record and reporting. My analysis code, I haven't got any. And my service due dates, all of these are here. I said none of this was mandatory, so that's absolutely fine. So you set up all of your assets. Notice I've linked this to my cost phase on my plant job. And that's your assets. However, what we've also got is, right, plant, let's just go back to plant, job asset categories. So I've got one here for Oasis job. And I said I wanted the 14-ton excavator. And what you can actually do here is set up individual rates for an item for a job. So special rate that we agreed for Oasis was £300 a week for this excavator. So that is really useful. It means that on your asset categories, the main ones, you set in stone your rates that you would normally charge, and then without having to change anything, once you set up a plant hire contract for Oasis and you hire in a 14-ton excavator, it will pick up that rate for you. So how does this actually work? What we have here under plant contracts is the ability to create new contracts for jobs or for external plant hire. You can again import all of these. So I'm just going to do a brand new one. And my contract date is today. And the very first thing you are asked is, what asset category do you want? You are not at this point in time selecting an item of plant. That only comes when you put the plant on hire. Because if you chose it now, say you were entering a whole load of plant contracts and you were allowed to choose an item of plant, you might duplicate it. You can only have one piece of plant out on hire at a time, so it will cause absolute chaos. So we are looking at the actual asset category. That's all it does. I've got my system set up to recharge to a job as standard. There's your two options, charge to a customer. If you charge to a customer, that bypasses jobs altogether, apart from the sale, which goes on to the plant job. So all it does is raise an invoice for a customer and charge the plant job. So here's my job number. So I'm going to do Oasis. And what phase? I've got 2 phases on this job. I'm going to go for groundworks. My shift pattern is a 5-day week. Now, a shift pattern is set up in settings. And I think it's in stock. Might be even in units. It's certainly in settings. Can't remember off the system. Might be in system. But you actually mark which days of the week you are in your shift pattern. So I've got Monday to Friday, and that's important for plant hire, because if you select a 5-day week shift pattern and a week, and you try to put this item on hire on a Sunday, it won't let you. So we're going to do a week. There it's picked up my £300 a week from our job asset categories. And my start date estimated is today. And my end date, actually, no, that won't work because that's not a Monday. 27th is my end date. Okay, so I save that. That's all. That's now my plant hire contract, and CIS will give this a contract number. However, I also want to put some charges on this because this is a big bit of kit. So just pop into there, do a new one, and I'm going to do delivery. First invoice only, and we're going to go £50. And what else have we got on here? Well, we certainly have the tracker, and that's 10. And we'll also have collection. And that will be 50 as well. So you're building up your plant contract with all the associated charges, and CIS, depending on the options that you chose for these contract charges, will charge these according to which invoice you are raising. You might have a long-term contract that you're invoicing, hire contract that you're invoicing weekly or fortnightly. So on the tracker, that would charge every time you raise an invoice. Okay, so we've created our plant contract. And what we're going to do is mark the contract as on hire. So this is very similar, if not the same, to what you saw on the external plant hire. There's my excavator. I'm going to tag that. Yeah, it went on hire then. And here is where I choose my asset. So there are my 2 excavators. They are the only 2 that are available for hire. I have only got 2, but both of them are available at the moment. So I'm going to go for the Thompson and go OK. And that is it. That is now on hire. So time passes. I can transfer to a new contract if I want to. It's all the same options. Mark it off hire, reset it on hire, resume on hire status. So what I'm going to do is to generate a plant hire timesheet now, because a week's gone by and it's still on hire, and I want to generate a plant hire charge to the job. So what I do is I come into this wizard and it says generate timesheets up to a date. Well, I'm going to go back to the 23rd, and that's my date that's going to appear on the job. I can choose just an asset category I want, or an asset group, but no, I'm just going to generate timesheets for everything. And it creates a timesheet for us. And if I look at that, there it is. It's mine, I think, that one. Let's have a look at that. So it creates a batch for us, as everything in CIS does. And there we have revenue type, recharge to the job. I'm recharging to Oasis build. It's for the groundworks phase, and it's going to post through job heading 4,000, posting through to the nominal. The units is a week, and it's one at £300. And there are my charges. I've got one at the moment. My charge total is £60. So what do I do with this? I'm happy with it. I want it to post onto the job. So go back to my batch and post. I will print it actually first to show you the ins and outs. And there we are. So Oasis build job is going to be charged £300, recharges of delivery in the tracker. And then the job itself is going to have revenue of 300 plus £60 worth of charges. That's pretty neat. So from here, I can post it. There we go, hopefully closed. Yeah. So what's happened on the job? So if I just look for the Oasis job, okay, and it was on groundwork. So let's have a look at the cost phases on that. Okay, let's have a look at cost transactions. I've got mine summarized at the moment. And there is our 3 charges. Perfect. And it actually gives me the detail of the hire. The end date of the hire there, which I think is pretty neat. Okay, so that is your internal plant hire. And just for completeness, I will do you an external plant hire. So let's create another plant contract. We'll do it for today, and we'll do a 14-tonner again, but this time it's an external. Okay, and this time it wants a customer. Let's do good old Adam, and we'll do it for a day, and we're going to charge it £117. Today's date. Okay, no hire charge, no other contract charges apart from the tracker, because they're coming to pick it up themselves. Okay, so put that on hire. There it is. It's today, one day, and there's only one asset left because my other excavator is still on hire. Okay. And then again, I need to take it off hire as well, although I could just invoice that. So I'm going to generate plant timesheets again for today. Okay. This time, when I go to plant timesheets, it's still there, but this one is an external. So let's just have a look at it. There's my tracker. I don't know what that's doing actually. Oh, it's invoiced the other one as well. So this time, this one is for Adams Light Engineering, and it should create an invoice for me when I post it. Well, actually, it doesn't. Sorry, it does. Actually, it does. So I'm just going to post that one. And now it's created a sales invoice for us. So let's just have a look at that. And it is our complex sales invoice. There it is. Okay, you can, I will print it. It's not got what I would want on it, which is all the detail. It's just a very simple invoice at the moment. Obviously, you can bring in the whole description of the plant into here. However, on here, just to prove that it's there, there's your sales invoice items. Pull that up a bit, and there we are. So you'd have an invoice which had detailed items on it with the details of the hire coming into your invoice. And that is your overview of plant hire. A rapid one, I have to say. There's quite a lot to get through there. So, Bruce,
Thank you.
do we have a Q&A?
So, hi, thank you very much, Louise, for that so far. I haven't seen any questions in the chat, so if anybody has got any questions, now would be the time to throw them at us. If we can answer them, we can help.
Somebody's got their hand up.
Nicole, could you unmute and kind of give us your question, if you don't mind? Is there a way to enter calibration dates for assets? Apologies, no microphone. That's fine. No problem.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes. So let's just go back to plant. There's your calibration date, just there. And if you do enter any dates into any of these fields, if you go past that date and you try to use that asset, you'll get a warning from CIS that it's due. But obviously, if you've got XRL, or indeed if you've got a view, you can set the view up with calibration dates with all of this information in it as well. So you can easily see what's coming up and service dates, etc.
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. I'm having back from Nicole. Thank you for that. Is there anybody else with any other questions? I don't see any hands or anything. I'm going to assume that. Sorry, say again.
I was going to say, does anybody think it's something, these two things, that would be useful for them, particularly the external plant hire? So you can just put your hand up if you think so.
Internal, yes, I'm getting from Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for that.
Yeah, very much
Awesome.
so. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for that, Louise.
You're very
just
welcome.
Going to take control back and share my screen. And
I'll stop sharing.
That's fine, yeah. And say thank you very much for joining us today. I have these webinars, as you guys know by now, once a month on the last Thursday of every month. We always tackle a different issue. Next month, I'm not 100% sure, but look out for the invitation coming out soon, still to decide what we're going to do. So thank you very much. So 31st of October, I'm saying an interactive workshop on there, but watch this space. It might be something different. So thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next round. Thank you.